Today I'm joined here with Skylar, and we're going to talk about debt and the impact it has on you. All right, Skylar, I want to talk a little bit about debt. Clearly, you're a very familiar guy when it comes to debt, so I want to talk about it. You know, actually, jokes aside, though, a lot of people have gone through various stages of debt.
Mm-hmm.
I think anybody who has been even remotely successful has had interesting brushes with, relatively speaking, pretty serious degrees of debt.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what is the most amount of debt you've ever been in?
When we decided to finally pay off our debt, me and Missy, my soon-to-be wife, we had $51,000 in debt combined.
That's a good number. 51,000.
Yeah, 51 and change, something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Was it like student loans?
No student loans. I was thankful enough that Missy was double hard worker than me. She worked while she was in college. I definitely was not that smart to work while I was in college. I
Yeah.
need all my focus on the books. No, but my parents paid for my Mohawk college tuition, and I
Okay.
lived at home. So no student loans.
So what'd you go through that for?
Stupid things like credit card debt took up a lot. You know, the problem was when we first started dating,
Yeah.
we'd go out on dates and we get paid on Friday. We both got paid on the same day.
Yeah.
We go out for dinner and she would pay. And then we go for dinner the following Friday.
Yeah.
And then she goes, I can't afford to go for dinner. I'm like, why? You make this much money. You know, she made way more money than me at the time. How can you afford? I still got this much money left in my paycheck. She goes, well, I got to pay all my debt. I go, what do you mean pay your debt? She was making minimum payments on all her credit cards. And she had 3 credit cards. Minimum payments.
Wow.
Just minimum payments. She's paying her phone bill, paying the internet, paying a little bit of rent.
Yeah.
She was living at her mom's. So that would take up most of her money. And then there I'm sitting with, you know, not as much, probably the same amount of debt. And I just wasn't paying in my debt, right? And I have terrible credit. And, you know, I started my small business and I was hustling. And then I thought it was crazy that she was paying the minimum payments. And she thought it was crazy that I wasn't paying anything, right? So then it trickles up that you have $51,000. And that's when we made the decision that I want to invest in real estate really badly. She wanted to be out of debt really badly. She really didn't want to invest in real estate. She just wanted to be out of debt.
Yeah.
But those two things aligned. And when they aligned like that, it was hard. It was definitely hard. But, you know, within a year, you know, we paid off all the debt and we're debt free. And that board hangs in my office and it goes from the smallest debt we had to the biggest debt we had. And you see all the numbers beside it. If anybody comes sees my office, then on the other side of the whiteboard, you see zeros.
Yeah.
And it's very rewarding.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
That's crazy because, you know, when you are under such a heavy pile, right? It's $51,000. Like, for example, in the case of real estate, it doesn't sound like a lot. Right? If you have a $51,000 mortgage, you don't even care about it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when people talk about debt, I used to like do this weird. I don't do this anymore, but when I was younger, I used to do this with this weird brag flex, where people would talk about the debt. My friends, and I was I when I think about this, God, I feel like it's so douchey. But they would say, "Oh man, I got these debts I need to handle," and they would say like, "I've got $10,000 in debt. I've got $20,000 in debt." And then I'd look at them and be like, I have like $2 million in debt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're just like, what? But like not really taking into consideration that because I was investing into property, that was technically the debt that I had, but these were assets, so my debt was under control. And then I started to understand, or at least talk about, controlled debt versus uncontrolled debt. So when you have uncontrolled debt, it is stressful.
Yeah, it's stressful, but you have to want it. You have to want it. There has to be a bigger goal.
Yeah.
We can't just want to get out of debt just because you want to be debt free. Sure, it's rewarding. It's a good dinner. You know, it was a good weekend when we were debt free, but then that wears off, right?
Yeah.
So, like, why are we getting debt free? Like,
It becomes a standard.
You
when
need
you're
to have a reason.
Yeah.
Give me a reason. And I had a reason. She had a reason.
What was your reason?
That I want to invest in real estate. And I knew I couldn't invest in real estate if I had terrible credit, all these debts, and I wasn't able to save money.
Yeah.
And the good thing about paying off debt, what taught me, or, you know, it really taught Missy taught me, was that by paying off these debts, it showed us when we were debt free, we now knew how to save money.
Yeah.
And saving money is the most powerful tool you can have.
No, it's a skill, right?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we downplay it a little bit. We're talking about if you don't have any savings, it's not that you have a saving problem, you have an income problem. That is true to an extent.
Yeah.
Right. But there are still fundamental principles towards saving, because you can have a strong income and be really bad when it comes to your spending, right?
Yeah.
And then you have no savings. The same thing,
Yeah.
right? I know some people who used to earn $40,000 a year and have no savings, and now they earn $100,000 a year and still have no savings. Why?
Yeah.
Because those saving skills weren't taught.
Yeah.
Right? Because you guys, I remember for a period of time, you were doing envelopes.
We still do envelopes.
Hey, see,
Envelopes will never stop.
freaking great.
Envelopes will never stop, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many properties I buy, how much money's in the bank. Envelopes for us will never stop. And
Yeah.
I'm a true believer in the envelope system that, you know, I have X amount of dollars to spend a week, which is still not a crazy amount. The groceries are in there. You know, my dog has an envelope. Like everything has an envelope, right?
Yeah.
Her glasses. You know, we just went for glasses 2 days ago.
Yeah.
She need new glasses. We put $10 a week in the glasses envelope, right? And then at the end of the year, there's $520 in the glasses envelope.
Yeah.
There's enough for 2 pairs of glasses and an eye exam.
Yeah.
In the glasses envelope.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't have to save for glasses. It just every 2 weeks when we get paid, we refill the envelopes, and then there's money there. Dog food, vet visits, right? Nothing comes out of our bank account. Everything's in the envelope.
The most amount of debt I was ever in when it came to loose debt was $80,000. $80,000, and I was maxed out on a few things: line of credit, credit cards, and a little bit of private loan. Right, and this was actually while I was doing real estate investing, and I think part of the reason was because I don't even remember where I got these ideas from. I think it was from JT Fox, right? And for anybody who knows this guy, he's a serial entrepreneur, right? He comes off a little scammy, but he talks a little bit about branding. He's from Toronto originally, but he's very
And he tells you to get debt and get private loans.
Well, he talked about the power of debt, and one of the things he said was that he doesn't actually operate in savings. Any money that he has, as opposed to it being in a savings account, he puts it towards any debts that he has. Now, I had a few properties, and basically I was operating completely out of line of credit. So when I was flipping houses, when I was doing whatever, I was operating solely off of line of credits at the time. And so I was able to amass a lot of relatively loose debt. Like I would get those credit cards from Home Depot, and I'd have $15,000 in credit card a provision and in the 6-month don't pay thing, right? With Home Depot. So I'd go buy all the supplies I needed for a property on a credit card, and I didn't have to pay for 6 months. By the way, I'll insert it now. One thing I didn't know about the Home Depot credit card was that although it said don't pay any interest for 6 months,
you pay principal.
But you know what I did? Wasn't paying anything. It destroyed my credit, bro. It ruined my credit. That was one of the most expensive credit card bills I've ever had to pay, not because of the interest or not because of anything else, because I didn't pay the minimum payment payment.
See, and I do not believe in credit at all. And again, you know, I run one of the biggest private management companies in Hamilton. I'm the final say on all these approval applications that are a little dicey. And the credit's out the door for me.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care about the score. I don't want to know if you're 6, 7, 8. I don't care.
Yeah.
I look at debt. How much debt do you have? Are you paying your debt? Right? So are you making the minimum payments like Missy? Or are you making no payments like me? You can't do both.
You got to look at it with a little bit more detail, right?
Yeah. You can't just do the score thing. You can't say, this guy's 750, you know, pays his debts.
Which is why I understood if somebody were to ever look back in the day at my rental application, people might look at it and say, wow, this looks a little unstable, right? Yeah. You have a tremendous amount of debt, and it doesn't look like you're servicing it right now. And because the properties were being renovated and I had a lot of debt and I was kind of banking on a few things to work out, I was being quite bold, right, with my debt. But it wasn't just that. I remember at some point things got a little out of control because now I had maxed out Home Depot credit cards.
Yeah.
And
these are 20%.
Yeah. But there was 6 months no pay, so like this was the peak, right? And then I also had visas with $20,000. Some of these visas, at some point, I remember that things were out of control, and I actually made a bad mental adjustment. I shut off. And I stopped paying attention. And I said, I will know that I'm like over leveraged because I was getting close to being over leveraged. I know I'm over leveraged when my card gets declined.
Yeah.
One day I went to buy flowers for my girl. My credit card got declined, and my credit card limit was about $30,000.
Yeah.
And I pulled out my debit card and I paid with debit.
The habit there always pulling out the credit card, and I get in these arguments all the time. Family, friends, you know, we want the points, right? We want the perks. I want the perk of not having to worry about the credit card bill when it comes to the mail.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need the points. I don't need the perks. I make enough money, right? If I don't make enough money, I'll go buy another house and I'll flip the house.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need the stress of these stupid credit cards.
Yeah.
And that's what they are. I don't need a big wallet full of plastic. You know what I need is as I pay with my debit card.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? I don't need the fancy metal Amex to make me feel that I'm something.
And that's where some people, so personally, I didn't have the issue with the points. I actually didn't pay too much attention to the points. Although at some point, it's a nice little perk when you realize, wow, I spent so much money. Actually, it's disgusting when you realize how much money you have to spend in order to get that one flight ticket.
Crazy.
It's a lot. When people think about it and they think, oh, I'm saving on the points, that's actually how some people end up down this rabbit hole. That's really bad.
That's why they get you.
Yeah, that's where it all happens. Yeah. And then you end up having problems. You end up having troubles where you can't service or manage the debt.
Credit card companies only do what works, right? 6 months no interest when there's brand new appliances and you bring your wife the Home Depot where she hates Home Depot.
Yeah.
Right. If anything like Missy, like she doesn't want to go to Home Depot. She doesn't like Canadian Tire. Right. The reason is why they give you the 6 months free interest, because then you finally bring the wife in. You see the new KitchenAid stove with the pink handles or the gold handles.
Oh, that's
and believe
smart.
me, this is recent, right? A white gas stove, and you're looking at it like, oh, it's $2,500, $3,000. It's pretty expensive for a stove, but it's no payments for 6 months.
Yeah, we can save that in 6 months.
Yeah, it's doable, right?
Yeah.
It's like, get out of here. We don't need a stove. Get out of here.
No, that's smart. Yeah. See, they have this down to a science, and this is where debt just ends up blowing up. When I say that, I had $80,000 in debt. Like, technically speaking, in my mind, I didn't have a girl that was commanding this. Actually, I made my girl nervous with the amount of debt that I have, and I was actually trying to encourage her to. You should just operate out of debt. It worked out. It did work out, but because I was looking when I was flipping property, I was thinking, I can take my $30,000 credit card and just buy all the stuff I need, and I might be paying 18% interest. But I can make more money than that is going to cost me through the flip. And I get it, right? And this is when I was like younger. I was maybe a little more reckless, but I was bold. And I'll still do some things, but you don't need to necessarily do that. That I was doing because I didn't have other options, right? Because you got to understand also that when I started off, I was working construction. I didn't have a paycheck. I had pay, but I didn't have a paycheck, which meant that a lot of it was cash. Yeah. And clients wanted to pay that way. And so I didn't have a good notice of assessment when it came to applying to a bank. So I had to leverage different things.
See, when you have your credit card there and you felt confident because you had that $30,000 credit card. So even though if you didn't have any money in the bank or you didn't know when the next paycheck was coming in, you had that piece of plastic so you can go buy the house and buy the materials. Yeah. Right. And what we're doing wrong there is that we're not doing the power of saving money, right? Yeah. Is that I know every month how much is going into the bank, how much I'm saving, because I live on the envelope system, right? Yeah. That's my comfort. Yeah. That's my comfort. When I buy this house, it's going to cost $200,000, but by the time it sells in the year, there's going to be X amount replenished the accounts. Yeah. Because I'm saving money.
Exactly, right? And when you have a habit that you are ritualistic about, right? Mm-hmm. Habit implies, it's kind of like a ritual. But the thing is that when you have something like that, it adds up pretty quick, right? People sometimes say, okay, if I want to save this type of a down payment, it's going to take me forever. Yeah. But you start doing it and time flies. How many times have you said, oh, I should have started doing this earlier on?
Yeah, like where would we be? Right? Yeah, exactly. And everybody says that.
Right? And the same thing with a savings account. If I had just put X amount of money into a savings account every month, where would I be today? Yeah. Really in a good position.
Yeah. Right? And you don't remember the times that you went out for dinner and spent $100 on dinner.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Dude,
all those times that you go to a cottage for a weekend, or you go to Niagara Falls, or you go bowling, right? Bowling's $100, and you want to talk about costing down. Bowling, I took Missy out for bowling, is $100. Yeah. By the time I have a couple beers, rent the shoes, it's $100 for bowling.
Anytime you go out for pretty much anything, especially if you go out with your girl, you're running $100, no problem. $100, no problem, right? And what do people get paid? A lot of people. The average salary in Canada is something like $58,000 or $60,000, and in Ontario, I think is like $80,000 or $90,000. Yeah. And people are typically making anywhere between $200 to $350 a day. So you spend $100, spend $200. Yeah, that's half your salary. Gross. Yeah. Right. So I mean, money can fly pretty quickly. Yeah, to do something, right? And that's why when people say, "Oh, I want to just go out to eat casually," it's not even like a special occasion. Yeah, right? You just go casually drop a couple $100.
Yeah. Right. And now when we're spending $100 a dinner, you got tipped $25, $30.
Exactly.
Right? Dude, $30 is a lot of money.
Yeah. These are all reasons why debt can just spiral out of control. Yes. And the way that you feel towards it, there's also a perpetualness, right? When people get into these habits, especially if you're like a big boss kind of guy, where you're just like, I'm going to pick up tabs. But you know how many people have told me that they pick up tabs while they're massively in debt?
And it does feel good, right? And I bought a couple properties and then sold a couple properties. And you feel good that night. Take the boys out, right? Tonight's on me. Yeah. Right? It feels great. Yeah. Doing that all the time. Doing that to strangers.
In psychology, there was this thing that we used to learn about in nursing. The gist of it is this, and anybody listening to this will be able to relate to this if you have any form of debt. But it's like when you are in debt and you are underwater a little bit, there arises a need to spend money on relatively expensive things to not feel broke or to not feel poor. Yeah. Right? And people will do this, and it gives you a brief period and feeling of normalization, where things are okay. I can afford this. By doing it, I actualize something.
Yeah, see, when people say feel broke, I don't think that people actually ever felt broke, right? These are rich people just worrying about the fear of what broke feels like, right? Yeah. Broke means that you're not stressed out, right? You may not make any money, but you don't have any debts, right? There's zero money in the bank account, and you go work every day and hustle, right? The only stress you have is about waking up the next day to hustle.
Yeah.
It's a different stress when you're maxing out all your credit cards and then you can't sell the house. You're way more stressed now than this guy being broke.
Well, yeah,
And
that's
I can
because
tell
of
you
burden
that
of
because,
responsibility.
You know,
Yeah.
I paid off 50 grand worth of debt, and at one point you start off again, right?
Yeah.
And when you're at that point where you just spent all your money paying off debt, and now you're broke.
Yeah.
Because all my money went to that debt
Yeah.
in the past year.
Debt, especially the way we're talking about it, has a lot of negative connotation.
Yeah.
However, it's interesting because it is also obviously a tool.
Yeah.
My family has a lot of experience with debt.
Yeah.
Had a lot of experience with debt. They went and had it. They went and paid it off. They've gone through the motions, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people avoid debt like the plague, and they don't want to ever have any debt if possible.
Yeah. And the guy that I follow to get out of debt, his name's Dave Ramsey, and he's the guy that, buy everything cash. When you do buy a house, you need to put 30% down. You need to have a 30% income to mortgage ratio. All that stuff, I totally agree. Sounds great. We live in one of the most expensive cities in Canada. That is not possible. You cannot save up a 30% down payment and then have that income ratio to match your mortgage payments. It just, the economy doesn't add up like that. Sure, it's nice, but, there is some tools with debt, and I totally agree, even though I'm not a debt guy, that, having a couple mortgages on my rental properties that break even every month or cash flow a little bit, primary residence, it's all going to be good debt eventually.
If you can learn to be comfortable enough with debt and either have controlled debt or have debt you can control, I think you have a good shot at reaching whatever objectives you're trying to meet.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
And this is where people talk about, like, sometimes I ask people the question, would you rather buy a $20,000 car by dropping $20,000 in cash, or would you rather finance it? Depending on how you think and what your mindset is like, if you're an investor, financing it will definitely be a better option because you're not out $20,000. If you can put zero down, pay like whatever, a few $100s a month, 4 or 5 years, you still haven't paid $20,000.